All right, ready to jump into this. We're not talking about riding the rails today. Oh no, this is about landing you a job, keeping those trains running.
Preparing for a train preparer interview, it's a mouthful, but it's crucial.
And lucky for you guys, we've got all the insider info thanks to RoleCatcher. They've got it all: career guides, sample questions, even AI to help you practice. It's wild.
It's true. Having that edge is invaluable, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we dive into the AI magic, let's break down what a train preparer actually
Yeah,
does.
let's get into it. It's all the behind-the-scenes stuff before a train can even think about leaving the station, right?
Exactly. Think of it like the pre-flight check. But for trains, they're inspecting every single thing, from the brakes to making sure the communication systems are good to go.
So safety is a big, big deal in this job. RoleCatcher's guide really stresses that even a small mistake could have some major consequences.
No doubt, lives are literally at stake.
Yeah.
And the interviewers, they know that, so they're going to want to see you understand those safety protocols, how you handle pressure, all of that.
Okay, so speaking of pressure, the interview questions, right?
Yeah.
Because those can be brutal. RoleCatcher gave us a few tough ones to work through today, so I think this will be super helpful.
Definitely. Let's start with the classic. What motivated you to pursue a career as a train preparer? Seems straightforward, but this is where a lot of people stumble.
Because I love trains, probably won't cut it, huh?
Probably not. They want to see real passion, not just a surface level thing. Think about what truly drew you to this work.
So how do you make your answer genuine and go beyond the usual stuff?
That's where personal stories come in. RoleCatcher talks about that spark moment. Was there a memory from your childhood, maybe a family connection to the railway, or a documentary you saw that just clicked with you?
Ooh, I like that. It's always good to make it personal.
For sure. And be honest, even if you're partly motivated by the practical side of things, wanting a stable job is completely valid.
Right, but maybe instead of just saying that, you could say something like, the stability is a big plus, but it's knowing that train preparers play such a vital role in getting people where they need to go safely. That's what truly drives me.
Nailed it. You acknowledge your own needs while highlighting the importance of the job. Subtle, but effective.
Love it. Now, I know RoleCatcher's AI can actually help tailor your answers to specific companies and positions.
It's true. You can plug in the job description and it'll recommend keywords and even analyze your answers for clarity, conciseness, you name it.
That is seriously cool, like having a personal career coach in your pocket.
Exactly. But let's get back to those interview questions for now. Number 2, what are the key responsibilities of a train preparer?
Okay, that seems pretty direct, but there's got to be more to it that meets the eye, right?
Absolutely. Don't just rattle off a list. Use this as your opportunity to show you really understand the job inside and out.
So instead of just saying inspect trains, you'd want to say something like, I'm responsible for ensuring all the safety mechanisms are in perfect working order, brakes, communication systems, all of it, to make sure each trip goes off without a hitch.
Now you're getting it. You've highlighted your technical knowledge and your commitment to safety all in one go.
It's about connecting those dots for them,
Yeah.
showing them you get it.
Exactly. Speaking of getting it, let's move on to question 3. This one's about a critical part of the job. How do you ensure that trains are prepped and ready to depart on time?
The pressure's on.
Yeah.
This feels like a test to see how you handle stress and juggle tasks when things get busy. What do you think?
100%. This is what we call a behavioral question. They want to hear about your past experiences. Think of a time you were under a tight deadline, and it's not just about the story itself, it's about the skills you used. Did you have to prioritize things? Make a tough call on the spot? Maybe get creative when something unexpected happened?
Okay, so even if you've never worked with trains specifically, you can still draw on other experiences. Like if you've ever worked in a busy kitchen, that shows you can handle the pressure.
Exactly. Just connect the dots for them, show them how those skills would apply to being a train preparer.
So almost like saying, look, I might not have experience with train cars yet, but I've handled a crazy dinner rush,
Yeah.
and that takes some serious organizational skills.
Exactly. Now, RoleCatcher really emphasizes using specific examples. Don't just say you're organized. Give them a clear picture.
Like tell them how many orders you juggled, how you stayed on top of everything, the steps you took to keep things running smoothly.
You got it. The more specific you are, the more believable and memorable your answer will be.
That's really helpful. So moving on to question 4, this one says, how do you prioritize tasks when you're prepping multiple trains for departure? That sounds like a logistical nightmare waiting to happen.
It definitely can be, especially during those peak times. This question is designed to assess your time management, how you prioritize, and how well you stay calm under pressure.
So just saying I'd make a list or I'm a good multitasker isn't going to cut it. They want to see a more strategic approach, right?
Right. RoleCatcher suggests thinking about it this way. Imagine you're an orchestra conductor.
Ooh, okay, I like that. So instead of instruments, you're coordinating all the different tasks to make sure it's a smooth departure.
Exactly. You need to understand each instrument, or in this case, each task, and how it all works together.
So a good answer might be something like, just like a conductor prioritizes each instrument for a powerful performance, I would first focus on any tasks that are critical for safety, and then move on to the ones that affect efficiency, like making sure the train is properly aligned and coupled.
Now you're conducting. That shows them you understand what's most important in this job and that you can think strategically.
Music to an interviewer's ears, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of music, I'm curious, does RoleCatcher's AI analyze your tone of voice when you do those practice interviews? Like, can it tell if you sound bored or unenthusiastic?
That's a great question. I don't think it analyzes tone specifically, but it does give you feedback on things like your pacing and how clear you are, which can definitely affect how you come across.
Okay, good to know. Like having a virtual coach giving you pointers. All right, back on track with question 5. How do you ensure that all safety protocols are being followed when you're getting those trains ready to depart? This feels like a big one.
It is. Remember what we said about safety being the top priority? This is where you really want to drive that home.
Right, so it's not enough to just say, I'd follow the rules. They want to see you're really passionate about safety.
Right. Think of it this way. You are the last line of defense before that train, full of people, leaves the station. Your attention to detail, it could literally make the difference between a smooth journey and a disaster.
Wow, when you put it that way, it really shows how important this role is. How can our listeners get that across in their answer?
By showing how proactive they are about safety. Instead of just saying, I'd follow the checklist, they could talk about double-checking their work, paying attention to every little thing, speaking up if something seems off.
So it's about going above and beyond, not just ticking boxes on a form. It's about taking that responsibility seriously for everyone on that train.
Exactly. And speaking of going above and beyond, let's move on to question 6. How do you handle unexpected issues or delays when you're preparing trains for departure? Because we all know, especially with trains, things don't always go as planned.
Delays happen, things pop up. It feels like this question is all about seeing how well you problem solve, how you think on your feet.
You're exactly right. They want to see that you can stay calm, think clearly, and come up with a solution quickly. Again, this is where those real-life examples are so powerful.
So even if someone hasn't had a train-specific problem before, they could talk about a time they had to troubleshoot something, maybe with their car or a computer issue.
Exactly. The key is to focus on the process. How did you figure out what the problem was? What steps did you take to fix it? What was the outcome?
It's all about showing them you can handle those curveballs. Keep a cool head when things get tough. All right, back for more. We're diving into the last few questions of this Train Preparer Interview deep dive. We've already covered so much good stuff.
Yeah, we're on a roll. But we've got a couple more questions to tackle before we send you off to impress those recruiters.
You're right. Last we left off, we were talking about how to handle unexpected problems. Question number 7. How do you make sure all the equipment is in good working order when you're preparing trains for departure? Feels like this is where those technical skills really come in handy.
Absolutely. It's one thing to look at a train, but they want to know you get the mechanics of it. All the systems, everything.
So no, just like kicking the tires and saying, yep, looks good to me.
Not even close. This is about being on top of maintenance, understanding how things wear and tear, even maybe spotting a problem before it becomes a big issue.
So you're like a train doctor, making sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly. RoleCatcher talks about going beyond just the checklist. You've got to understand the history of the equipment, the maintenance logs, really knowing what to look for.
Okay, so our listeners should be prepared to talk about their experience with technical manuals, diagnostics, the tools they'd use.
Exactly. And if you've got a story about a time you caught a problem early on, that's perfect. Shows you're not just going through the motions.
Talk about going the extra mile.
Yeah.
All right, question 8. How do you ensure that all documentation is completed accurately and on time? This seems like another one where details are key.
The paperwork. It might not be as exciting as, inspecting the engine, but accurate documentation is a must in this job.
Because it's not just about checking boxes, right?
Yeah.
It's about safety, being accountable, making sure everyone's in the loop.
Exactly. RoleCatcher really stresses that. Those records are important for tracking maintenance, looking for patterns, and just making sure everything's up to code.
So even someone with a background in something like inventory, data entry, even being a really good note taker, those skills matter here.
Absolutely. It all comes down to being able to follow directions, being accurate, and meeting those deadlines.
Okay, last but not least, question 9. How do you ensure that all team members are trained and up to date with the latest protocols and procedures? This one feels like it's not just about your own work, but also about leadership, communication.
You got it. Train preparation is a team effort, and the interviewers want to know you can create a good environment for safety.
So think about it. Have you ever trained someone new? Or maybe you shared a tip that helped your whole team. Those are great things to talk about.
Absolutely. RoleCatcher talks about being a good communicator, making sure everyone has the right information and feels comfortable speaking up.
Being that go-to person, always in the know and ready to help others out. So important.
It really is. Now, before we wrap things up, let's circle back to something we touched on earlier, RoleCatcher's AI, that can help you even beyond just interview prep.
Oh yeah, they've got all those tools for the whole job hunting process, right?
They do. Imagine this. You've got an AI that looks at your skills, your experience, even your goals, and then it finds jobs that match and helps you tweak your resume for each one.
It's like having your own personal recruiter.
Exactly. So valuable, whether you're just starting out or looking for something new.
Like a secret weapon for the job hunt. Okay, before we finish up today, let's talk about the career path for a trained preparer. What's the growth potential like?
Great question. RoleCatcher actually has a whole section on career progression. With experience, you could become a supervisor, managing a whole team.
So going from prepping the trains to kind of conducting the whole operation.
Precisely. Or if you love the technical stuff, you could specialize in a specific area like brakes or electrical, become the expert everyone goes to.
Plus, with all the technology these days, there's got to be opportunities in automation and all that.
Absolutely. It's a field that's always evolving. The point is, being a trained preparer isn't a dead end. It's a starting point for so many different paths in the rail industry.
I love that. It's not just about getting your foot in the door. It's about where that door can take you.
Exactly. With the right prep, a little bit of passion, and maybe some help from RoleCatcher, you'll be on your way to a great career.
Couldn't agree more. This has been awesome, a crash course in becoming a trained preparer interview pro. So glad we could dive into this with you all. Until next time, this has been The Deep Dive. Signing off.